right, I'm doing my civic duty for science, a decade of physiological research on the furry fandom. Doing my civic duty. I'm gonna check out for science, see what the hell this is. National Anthropomorphic Research Project, furscience.com. Welcome to Fur Science. Fur Science is the public face of the International Anthropomorphic Research Project, IARP, studying furries and their fandom and disseminating our evidence-based research to furries, the general public, scholars, and media to increase their understanding and decrease stigma. Alright, what the fuck does disseminating mean? Copy. Spread something widely. Spread widely. Something. Okay, medicine. Spread throughout an organ or body. Ooh, okay. Spread something information widely. Alright. First Science is public face of International Anthropomorphic Research Project. I'm a little drunk. Studying furries and their fandom and disseminating our evidence. Spreading widely their evidence-based research to furries, the general public, scholars, and the media to increase understanding and decrease stigma. What are furries? I'm not here for that. I know what furries are, to my knowledge. Alright, research, that's what we care about. I care about the publications. Research findings. I care about the publications, but goddamn, I do want to know about research findings. Participant slash recruitment, autism, research findings. No, not research findings, publications. Yeah, there we go. All right, I ordered this one in the library. So it's going to the library, let's put it that way. And this is just a publication. Okay, we'll go figure. That's just common sense at that point. Research findings. Demographics. I don't really care about demographics on this one. Fandom participation, personas, animals, anything interesting in personas, persona origin, persona, self-persona, similarity, fursuit. Animals, attitudes, beliefs, and behavior. Yes, that was Mommy Rechan reference. Sex, relationships, and pornography. Arts and artists and writers, bronies, therians. That's an interesting one. So it's got to be relatively recent research. Well, there's got to be an inclusion of relatively recent in research for therians to be involved, unless they're older than I think. Uh, Prevalence, nature of connection to species, age of origin, nature of connection to species, phantom limb, furry psychology. That's the one I care about on that one. Gender issues, wellness and dysfunction, fandom issues, con going, online samples. All right, furry psychology it is. Personality traits, fantasy engagement, inclusion of other in self. That's an interesting one, 9.3. Fandom versus fanship. Outgroup perception, face recognition. Fandom versus fan. I'm gonna look into personality traits because that seems to be the broad one. A number of different models of personality in the physiological literature. One of the most frequently cited is the Big Five model of personality, which proposes that there are five major dimensions along which people's personality differ. Extroversion, tendency to be energized by and seek out presence of others. Agreeableness, being a friendly, cooperative, and social nature. Conscientiousness, the extent which one is organized and mindful of goals. Emotional stability, inversely known as neuroticism. I'm a little drunk, but I got that right. Confidence and resilience, lack of okay. Emotional stability, confidence and resilience. Right. So I'm just going to highlight the part we're not going to read. Those two little dots are important. Emotional stability, confidence and resilience, lack of susceptibility to negative emotions, openness to experience, a curiosity of interest which is unconventional, or desire to see, taste, hear, or immerse oneself in a variety of sensations and situations. Okay. I'm gonna say I'm mostly D on that one, only because it's relative, but I was just glazing by and just thought I'd mention that. All I noticed. It says each one of these items and furries and members uh, and members to different fandoms and fan examples, e.g. I don't know what e.g. means. Using small 10-item personality scale for each item, we tested whether identifying as a furry predicted higher scores on that trait, and whether furries as a group scored higher than members on the fandoms on the trait. Results are displayed below with different colored bars representing significant differences. Okay, so that's a graph. Extroversion. The more strongly a person identified as furry, the higher the extroversion score was. The more strongly a person identified as furry, the higher their extroversion score was. Okay, FurryCon, AnimeCon, well, Anime Online, AnimeCon, and Sport Fans. So 4.0 seems to be the okay. Well, I can't remember that word for some reason. Like it's not suspicious, but anyway, 4.0 seems to be the average. There we go. I got it. Mean, medium, mode, and average. That's how I remember that one. Anyway, 4.0 seems to be the average. Uh, agreeableness seems to be about around 5.0. Conscientiousness, about 5.0, somewhere around that. Stability, about 4.60 is what I'd say is the average. Openness to experience, ooh, yeah, yep. Average is about 5.20. Um, So 5.60 for the furries. First, openness to experience. Oh, that one's self-explanatory. Stability seems to be 4.60, which is I don't know. It's about 50-50 odds. You look at it that way. I'd say it's actually 1/2, 1 to 2 odds that the furries are mentally stable in the furry fandom, which is good. But I mean, that's only like 50% of furries if you look at it that way. That's what I'm getting out of this, which means, how do I explain this? Well, that means corrupt, uh, oh, okay, so I can't remember that. Just out of the blue, I can't remember that. So they want me to go with corrupt. Like, that's not suspicious. Like, I'm not a furry, but anyway. So anyway, it's just straight up fucking corrupt apparently. Because I was gonna say something smarter than that, but that's smart. We just don't side with that. Yeah, let's put it that way. No one would assume popular for fuck with the minds of furries. No one would assume that. I would know. I'm this dog trips. You know how I am. You know how I am. But apparently, stability is a 50% chance with every furry that they are mentally stable. Otherwise, it's not a 50% chance. And so that it's usually looks like it's going to be corrupt um, society. It's a corrupt society. Yep. So how does that one work? Well, I'll tell you the not mentally stable ones have the advantage somehow just because you don't expect them to have the advantage. And in that way, they're always going to be a step ahead just because you don't expect them to have the advantage. That's stability for you. Conscientiousness, that one's pretty blatantly open. Okay, so they are self conscious. That's what I'd assume just because they're at a 5.0. The 50% chance of mental stability. Ooh, okay, so that's vicious. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna search up vicious for you real quick. Actually, I'm gonna search up vice definition. I will be using this research a lot in my life, at least in the furry fandom, my life and the furry fandom. So Vice, moral, no. Vice, criminal activities, immoral, wicked personal characteristics. No, the Vice I know. Uh, I don't know how I forgot how I learned this, but a vice is any, maybe not vice. Let's put it this way: counter, counter definition. I'm gonna just make a new word using logic of how words work already. So counter, vicious. So counter and IOUS, because I know let's just search up IOUS. Counter. Yeah, I don't really trust these definitions as much as I used to because you can't just find like Pokemon a counter, which is how I'm looking at that one. Like a counter. You countered your fucking move, Pokemon, yeah. Anyway, uh, IOUS suffix. I think it's the suffix. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. Definition. We'll know what I'm talking about. Suffix possessing full of a given quality. Okay, so a given quality is the one most people are gonna think of, but it's possessing and full of. So a given quality is the easy way to explain that one. That's where it goes if you go the long way, which is figuring out possessing and full of, and then it goes to a given quality, so a given quality. So vice is a counter of some kind, which is directly related to what the counter is countering. That is a vice. So vicious, vice is vicious. A counter of a given quality, possessing full of given quality, so vicious. The conscientiousness is at a 5.0, while the stability is at a 4.60, which means the furry fandom is vicious about being mentally stable, which is fueled by the conscientiousness, since they are with a 5.0 conscientious with a 5.0 on the graph. You'd assume by default that is self-conscious in some way, whether it is or not. With a 4.60 on the scale, which was visually a half. As far as I know, that's visually a half. I wasn't really thinking about that, but that's going to be vicious vice. So the vice would be the consciousness to the mental stability, whether it is social, whether it is self-conscious or not. That's going to be vicious because you're someone to mental stability. Agreeableness is high with a self-high consciousness, and the mental stability is only at a 4.60, which would imply it is vicious if you, which would imply they are not going to let you stay mentally stable if you are. Here, maybe I'll just make another video. They're not going to let you stay mentally stable if you are, um, not agreeable with them because they are self conscious, as it would seem. And I'm just going off the furry fandom's research on its own, and they are open to experience, which means you will have to go with being agreeable. And they are self conscious, which would explain why their stability, their mental stability, is only at a 4.60 when they average around a about 5.20, 5.30, and the lowest score they have is mental stability. That kind of says something at that point. With their extroversion at a 4.0 and their mental stability, so they're somehow more mentally stable than they are extroverted, which would likely mean that they don't see the point of being extroverted as much. They just kind of do it. And the conscientiousness is at a 5.0, which would imply there's they pay attention to the fact each other are extroverted while they don't get it, and that would mean they have to think about what they're doing a lot, which would explain why their stability is relatively low compared to their other scores, where each of them range about a 5.0 and their extroversion only at a 4.0, which, anyway, their openness to experience would be a 5.60. So that means they just kind of do it at that point, whatever the hell they're doing. And, yeah, which would, with their uh, openness to experience being a 5.60 and their conscientiousness being a 5.0, that means they're more do than think. With their extroversion at a 4.0, while they are more do than think, and their conscientiousness, okay, so they're more do, openness to experience, they're more do than they are think, which would be conscientiousness, 5.0, 5.60, so they're more do than think, and their extroversion is only at a 4.0, so they just kind of do it, not really getting the concept of why they do it, which would explain why their stability is only at a 4.60. And their agreeableness is at a 5.0, which is going to fuel why they just do and don't really think. And yeah, and that's basically, long story short, TLDR, the furry fandom is full of jocks. Muscle schoolboys, if you look at it that way. Bullies, something like that. If you count bullies as jocks, which might be the reason they're bullies is because they're not jocks. No one would assume a deer is tall.